everybody else is, yeah. Let's call the meeting to order and get ourselves started. Due to the governor's statewide disaster declaration relating to the COVID-19 pandemic and current public health guidelines for social distancing, I have determined that it is not prudent for the members of the Economic Development Commission or staff to convene in person for this morning's meeting. Therefore, the members of the EDC are attending this meeting by video conference. Those same conditions require barring of access to the public for in-person attendance. In light of those limitations, the public is invited to attend and listen to the meeting through Zoom platform or by phone as indicated in the meeting agenda. Comply with the Open Meetings Act requirements for virtual meetings. This morning's meeting is being recorded. Thank you. Pam, can you see who's here?
Sure. Mike Elliott.
I'm here.
Erwin Steinberg.
Here.
Jay Levin.
Here.
Mina Hall.
Here.
And Roger.
Here. And Pam. Here.
And me. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Minutes of the last meeting. Anybody, any additions, corrections, reflections? Okay, can we get a motion to approve the minutes then?
I'll move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second it.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Moving on to the agenda. The first item I think I'm getting up here on the screen is talking about what if anything has happened with respect to the Restaurant Association and the Historic Long Grove Downtown Business Association. Anybody, anything to add at that point?
The only thing I wanted to add is that we discussed, is Amy Gayton there? Amy was at the last mean and
yes, I am. I was on mute.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
We talked about the PPP program and the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant Program. And we talked about the possibility that it could be used by the HDL GBA with regard to not having our festivals in 2020. And I just wanted to remind, I know we talked about this already, Amy, but there is that program that went into law at the end of December of 2020. And it provided $15 billion in grants to shuttered venues to be administered by the SBA. And eligible applicants could qualify for that grant equal to 45% of their gross earned revenues, from the previous year. So, wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit and remind, I know you were on top of that one, Amy, so.
Yes, we have looked at it. We are going to apply. We're not sure that we check all the boxes, but we're definitely going to attempt to get this grant. So we're awaiting the application. It hasn't come out yet, but we will definitely be applying when it does.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that. I don't know how strict a definition there is of a shuttered venue.
Right.
Obviously, we're talking about outdoor festivals, but you can. I'm sure there'll be guidance on that, through the SBA.
Do you know if it would make a difference if the village supported the grant, since a lot of it's the village's public spaces?
We'll keep that in mind when we see the application. When it says like who can apply, we do check a lot of those boxes, but we don't check all of them. So we're not, best we can do is apply and hope that they see, because when it says it goes like 90% and then 70% of your operating revenue that you have lost, we're at 73.9% of our operating revenue has been lost from 2019 to 2020. So in that, way we qualify fully for that second tranche.
Unfortunately, yeah.
We'll see if they think we check all the other boxes. So we'll
I
let you
suspect
know
we'll
what
cross our
happens.
fingers for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So fingers crossed, because that was a huge, we get to work on our budget tonight, and it's probably not going to be very fun because we got to make some hard decisions because of what happened last year.
And
So-
Amy, what's going on with the festivals? Has there been any decision with regard
Yeah.
to?
So we got some interesting information from at our events meeting, our last events meeting. One of the firemen guys was there, and he said that the information they're getting is that when we get the AOK, it's going to be like a flipping of a switch, and we're going to go from we can't do things to okay, we can do things, and they are looking and he's being told that could be about April 1st. So we're looking at Chocolate Fest to come out in a few different ways. A low-key one that will, kind of still fit with the parameters in place at this point, and something that will be a lot more open, and hopefully, because people are dying to get out. So we want to be there ready to go if we are able to go. So that's what the gals in the Visitor Center are working on. A few ideas for Chocolate Fest, and we'll be talking about them at our next meeting, which will be in 1 week. So we're excited to hear our options.
Was this venue granted under the December stimulus plan?
Yes, December
Okay.
27th.
Okay, so maybe there's a new stimulus plan coming up. Maybe we can put it on the agenda for our next meeting to see if we can get ahead of this and communicate anything that would be beneficial to any of the businesses and or residents.
Excellent. That sounds great. Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is the how'd you
Oh,
do
I
videos?
wanted to mention one
Oh.
more thing, Roger, on
Yes.
Lake County Partners. I don't know how relevant this is. It's something we can look into, but they did post on their website that they are seeking proposals for the development of a comprehensive economic development strategy and infrastructure priority list for the county. And I guess they're looking for projects that will impact a variety of developmental parcels and what infrastructure they lack. And I'm trying to find out what kind of what's the benefit of being on this list. I don't really know. Are they trying? I guess that's what we have to figure out. I did reach out to somebody at Lake County Partners to find out more about it, because I was thinking about infrastructure needs of our local businesses, such as obviously a public water supply, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. What there is this list that they're compiling of priority projects, but what they intend to do with it is what I'm trying to find out. So I'll try to report on that at the next meeting.
That would be interesting, to say the least. It sounds like they're looking for vendors, in effect, experts to do the report for them, but hopefully there'll be some kind of an ability to input ideas, and that would be
Yeah,
something
I mean,
we
as we know, as we talked about, Mina and Denise and Bill and others, about public water, we worked on a grant, and I don't know where that stands, but we've got a lot of materials already available. So I'm just, And once we find out what this all, will come to, and if there's any benefit to it, we've got a lot of the work done.
I thought right away about the discussions we've had about high-speed internet and the difference that might make with the kind of businesses that might be attracted to this area. But yeah, let's keep our ear to the ground and see what happens there. That's a good point. So how'd you do it is still ongoing. We have one interview set for this Friday, and hopefully that will produce the kind of things that we now have from our earlier interviews. In case you didn't see it, Jenny's done some work. Thank you again. On the clips we have, there's one really nice tight clip now of the interview with the people at White Oaks, where they tell nothing but that story about how wonderful it was to open up a restaurant in Long Grove and the kind of cooperation they got. Now we have to think about ways to deploy those kind of things. I guess, Jenny, did you say you finished off an Appel clip last night too?
I did. I just uploaded it last night. It's the segment where he talks about how moving his business 2 miles increased his customers by like 500 new customers in a year, which is unheard of. So it's a little bit longer than the other. I asked my husband to watch it and he said it's not too long, but I also I noticed I made an error in it as well, but Rita told me that she couldn't open the clip. So I don't know if everybody else had those issues as well.
I couldn't open the clip either.
Okay.
You know what? It's because you have to use the longer EDC email and password, not just your own.
That would make sense because that's how I was able to open it. And I used the Long Grove password, got in, and I looked at the clip and I looked at the revised drone footage, and they played beautifully. And I actually, Denise, could you open up the clip with the White Oaks people? Because
I didn't try that one.
I think I could.
Because if we can get a share screen, they really are powerful when they're just that short little whatever. And
Oh.
I'd like to share with everybody, just so we see that we're doing something that has some value.
Oh, hold on a second, Roger. I thought you meant to have I already looked at it. Let me see if I can get it open.
You notice that everybody, when they start clicking around while they're on screen, feels impelled to say something. At least I do. I know.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of class, and I'll be trying to find something from a student. Something going, oh, weird little noise.
Let's see.
It's normal.
Roger, why don't you go on and then I'm still digging for it. So
Yeah, I'll interject, Roger. I think I sent you that there's some good synergy going on in the town too. That Sunset Foods, they were carrying White Oak gourmet vegetarian meals. I thought that was interesting.
Good
I just noticed that yesterday. I bought some just yesterday. So that was nice to see.
Maybe I can interject also that we received a lead through, I think it was Bobby O'Reilly, about a business that is in the piano selling, leasing lessons. And they've got 2 locations, and they think that this area would be, a good triangle for them for the 3rd. So just as an update, so I called the person I was referred to, and yesterday afternoon, so I'm sure she'll call back today or tomorrow, and I'll inform everyone at the next meeting. But it seems like a great opportunity for Long Grove, whether it's any of the spaces. So
Yeah,
that was good. And thank maybe Jenny, can I thank Bobby for that referral?
I will.
it's not quite as good as sales tax on cars, but pianos are a pretty good sale.
You know what, right, you're right. We'll take anything we can get. And it really fits in, you know, our area, what this
Oh, yeah,
person is
for
doing.
sure.
Yeah.
And when I saw the clips, I thought, you know, it'd be persuasive if you could convince the person you're talking to take a look at the clips of what, you know, what the doctor says about sales in the area and that kind of
Right.
business, because they're short enough that it's not like, hey, would you watch a half-hour video about one? It's just
Right.
take 2 minutes, look at this.
That's good, Roger. I'll make sure she goes to our website also,
All positive, good
the
stuff.
EDC.
Denise, oh, you got it. Okay, I was gonna say if you share,
Okay.
let me share, but
Yeah.
okay.
So
Excellent.
hold, here we go. Let's play.
Being in a food-based business and moving into the space in 2015, I've been associated with a lot of openings of other restaurant properties. So when we signed the lease and took possession, we were operating within 2 weeks. This is the Village.
There was sound.
I played it yesterday. It was much clearer. It sounded really good. It probably has something to do with being a replay of a replay or something like that. And
So you couldn't hear it?
the first third of it, maybe.
Okay.
But you get the idea. It's not long. It's got titles that help you make sense of what it is that you're looking at. I was talking with Kevin, and I am frustrated that it's not the kind of high quality pictures that you get when you look at Kevin, because he's got the nice setup. But you could also say, well, it lends authenticity. It's not some kind of slick advertising thing that we did. It's authentic about what's going on here. All right.
So I guess my question to you guys, I mean, I know you couldn't hear it, but is that what we're aiming for? I mean, I just kind of pulled it off the top of my head, but is that any advice moving forward?
That works a lot for me. I think that that's exactly the type of content that will get people convinced, you know, that it's something that they want to look into more. So if I was a business, even though the quality of it can't, you know, that's not the issue. I think that it'd be great to get more of those, keep them concise. And yeah, people are persuaded by video much more so than just, I mean, they need the content, written content of what, you know, the businesses have done or TIFF or anything else, but that's really good. I think it puts people in the mood to want to explore Long Grove, which they hadn't really thought of before.
And I agree with Gary on that. I'm just going to make one comment. I think we've put a lot of time and effort into this, and it's excellent. But what we're doing is relying on people to come to us. Would it make sense to put together a little targeted email to some of the people, Pam, on the shopping center list? They're the real estate people who are dealing with our potential tenants and potential businesses, to do a blast to them. Let's develop a blast to them. Let's go out to them, because they're the ones who say, hey, you know what? This really fits your criteria. And hopefully they'll bring in people. We haven't had a good a number of people who come to our website. So let's go the other way and target the people who are influencers to bring businesses in.
These clips are short enough that, at least with my limited knowledge of how it works, they can be embedded into the email, so that the minute you open the email, that's there and it plays if you want it to, and it doesn't take up a huge number of bytes or whatever the proper word is. So yeah, I think that's a great idea, Erwin.
Pam, do we have a list of emails that we could send this to, the clip? Put them all together?
We're developing one, from that information we got from the Schaumburg Business Library.
Okay. Okay. I mean, it's a recommendation. I just think that we've got to market the other way, not, we have to be proactive in this.
Yeah, I'm also hoping, and we're talking about as the board adding like Facebook or Instagram to our resources as a village. And I think this would be a great thing to add to social media, post that as to get out to the people that use the social media. If
Mhm.
we choose to move forward.
That's great.
Sounds good.
I had a question. So we're hoping to do Skycrest Friday. I was going to email Jake Weiss, and then I paused and I was like, do we want to wait until he has tenants in the reserve, or should I just, or is it okay to tap him for why he chose to buy this particular building? I just didn't know if it would be better to wait until he had tenants in, or if
Maybe
it
it would.
good.
Jenny?
Yeah, maybe it would be better to wait, Jenny. That's a good point, because
Yeah, Jenny, I was going to say, until he has the specs up where you can see renderings and drawings of what the proposed spaces will look like, I think that would be more enticing than just doing a right now empty shell kind of. I think it would just sell better.
That's what I thought. So, okay, thanks for confirming my instinct.
What about asking Jake why they chose Long Grove, period? And that's something where when he's just starting the project and he's enthusiastic and hasn't been carrying it for so many months and waiting for the tenants, we might be more likely to get a really good clip, maybe.
Yeah, Roger, that may make sense. Maybe, why he chose Long Grove and what his vision is for that property. Because it's a major project, which is great.
I would certainly wait until he has some, in addition to brochures, some actual physical improvements.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think he's hoping to have a spec up by May, so maybe we can just hold off until at least he has something to show people.
Sounds good. All right. Next item on the agenda was reporting about possible partnerships in terms of developing, we were talking website, but just generically communication and advertising of the village, in effect. Anybody have any new information on that?
I left a message for Ron, the manager of Sunset, but I'll follow through again. He's not so easy to get. They're sharing managers between a couple locations.
All right, we'll keep that on the agenda. Anything from Menards, anybody? Not yet? Well, let's keep scratching away at this and save this for the next meeting again. The next item says additional information on the costs of video editing. Yeah. What has happened is that Jenny has become proficient in video editing for us, at least on a short-term basis. But I still, is there any new information on that we should share?
Well, I've talked to 3 people that do it, and there's a 4th that I've left a message for. And, most of them are upwards close to $1,000 for, something like we did for the downtown. It easily is $1,000 plus. Now, I think, so the person that did the drone video, they are probably the most inexpensive. And I was looking, I know we're going to talk about this later, but the Lakemore site, I think that if we could hire them to do drone shots of our developable, our TIF areas and our developable sites, just having some drone pictures or short drone clips of those. I think that, there's a couple that there's a couple companies that both do the drone clip and do the editing. So that's going to be about $1,000. If we just want to do the drone clips and then kind of work on laying it out, which those are pretty easy. I mean, that's just a web page adding titles and information. I think I could probably do that in-house. I just don't know how much. We don't have a ton of resources, but I do think, I obviously don't have a drone. I think that's definitely something we should invest in, but in order to get like a proposal, I really need a specific direction on what I can tell these companies. So I think we have to determine how many sites we want and give them some examples so I can get a firm bid. Does that help?
Focus always helps, but a couple of things. One thing that struck me was I saw a couple of places this week where either the drone video or footage, still shots from the drone video, were being used by people other than just the EDC activity. And to the extent that we let it be known that developers, if they want to use our drone video footage, are welcome to take it and fool around with it. Maybe we could get more exposure that way too. We can take a drone video of the new South Tip and we can fly it in from a couple of directions, and we can talk about whether we should wait until it's just turning spring green or do it now where the structures are easy to see, or whatever the case might be. But once we do it and put it on our website, that's, just one shot. If we can make use of it in other places and go at it with the idea that it's going to go for more than just the village website, that I think that makes more sense. If I can say to a couple of commercial brokers in the area, as if you're pitching, here's a resource you can use to look at this area and make a dramatic point to your potential customers. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I think because the drone video, I think if we do something more specific like they did for the reserve, I don't know if you guys checked out that website. It's great, but it's very specific to the reserve. The one thing about the drone video is I was able to cut out little clips of just the individual businesses and I sent them to them. And I know that Buffalo Creek Brewing used them. I think Enzo and Lucia used them. So a lot of people had access to it because it was more generic. So I guess just knowing, I mean, I know we have the South 15 and the Gateway, but where else would we be interested in drone footage? I mean, it would be nice to hit some of the other businesses too, so I could clip them into Long Grove, like up by Mundelein, the Cutlers and the RV place and the Wood Grill place and Sunset Grove and Menards. But so maybe we just do the outlots this time.
Those to me would be reasonable candidates. After I saw the video of the drone flying through the bridge, I thought that it would be a very attractive video to have on the village's website, to have a drone flying down Old McHenry Road in about a month and a half when the daffodils are all coming up and the trees are turning green. Because, you want to promote Long Grove as a place to go. Well, here's a beautiful drive in the country down a rural road that's in the middle of really highly developed areas. And that would be an attractive ad for some limited purpose, but the return on investment is rather small there. If we get some drones and get them used not just by us, but by commercial brokers, that could have some big benefits for us.
Erwin, you're on mute.
Sorry. In our last meeting, though, we did discuss the Menards or Sunset or some others. sponsoring this. We need some money to do this and do it right. That's point A. So I don't know if that got mixed in the message, what we're going to ask Sunset or Menards or others, and I think that would help us get to the next level rather than going back and forth. What should we do? Let's get a professional in there to tell us, but we need some funding. Has that been brought to the board, that concept? I thought there was something that was going to be brought to the board about getting some sponsors to help us promote the EDC.
I did bring it up at the last board meeting and I didn't have any comments. So I don't know if that was ambivalence or if it was not interest or it was, I'm fine with it. I'm hoping to clarify that a little bit tonight. I think maybe I give too much information at the meeting. So maybe I just hit with that one question tonight to get some comment going.
Yeah, or Jenny, would it make sense, and I'm happy to work with you on it, come up with a paragraph or two of what we want, something in writing, what we're looking for, why we're looking for it, and, to get approval to move ahead on that.
That would be great, Erwin.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
At your leisure, maybe just text me or give me a call, and we'll set up a time to talk.
Okay.
But I think that's point one. If we have this professional drone, whether it's, and Roger, you mentioned seeing the downtown area, which is, in the flowers, which is the smaller tenant versus maybe more of a Menards or Sunset. So, someone could come up with a theme from small to large or something like that. But that's only point A. So now we have this product, okay? It's the same point I made 10 minutes ago. We got to get this product out to the marketplace, to the centers of influence for us. We can't have people come to us. We can't even get 50 hits on some of the things we're doing now. So I think we have to be proactive, and whether it's social media, no, that's not my area. To get it to the brokers, to get it to the centers of influence, and promote it. So it's two parts. We could do it, but then what are we going to do with it when we have this AAA product?
Right. And I think we talked about, I don't know how, Denise, how Municode would fit into this, but we talked about, they gave us a bid for doing some of this. It was kind of high, but that's where we were thinking about going back to Menards, Sunset, Buffalo Creek to help us with these before and after, pictures of their developments and, put that together. And that would be a good thing to, for a good subject for an e-blast, for example. But again, if we're targeting those developments, maybe it would be helpful if they could contribute to it. It's good publicity for them.
And I mentioned that my real estate agent for a property that we're selling in Palatine is CB Richard Ellis. And we went 7 or 8 years trying 2 or 3 different real estate brokers that we knew, and then even trying to sell this property by owner. When we gave it to the CB Richard Ellis, within 3 or 4 months, we had a buyer, and we're now in contract on it. So what I learned is that the property, the South 15 is now listed by CBRE. They'd be the ones that I'd go to hit up for, a little bit. They've got some marketing. Usually when they sign an agreement with a seller, they say, and we will put aside X amount of dollars, usually a couple thousand, 3,000, whatever, 5,000 for brochures, for whatever they say, because they have to make a point of what they're going to do to market the property. And so I don't know all the details, but it appears that maybe Rita knows more about it. If they are now the newcomer to selling that property, they should be contacted and used to, they'd be a wedge to get this thing done.
In my opinion, the problem with that South 15 is I think that the zoning that developers are looking for is not the zoning that property has. I've been continuously talking about that for years. I think that's a high density residential piece. So it's going to be great that they're experts. It's going to be great that they're coming in, but I just think they're going to have any problems with the use pattern. I think does not match the market.
Mixed development was what it's currently approved for. Is that correct? Which would mean
Non-residential. I believe it's approved for commercial non-residential.
oh, yeah. It's not a booming area right now, as we all know, or retail. Diamond Drive.
Going back to what Gary said, I believe that we should be contacting or soliciting some of the real estate developers also.
Yeah.
But again, the first step is let's get a product they could use and then figure out how we're going to market it to all these people. But we got to get some money to get it done. So we can go to the CB Richard Ellis, we can go to some others, or do we just go to some of the tenants in our town? You know, not when I say a town, in the village, and try to put this together with giving them some credit at the end.
Who benefits from it? If you have the real estate people there, they're going to make a nice commission on selling it. The other real estate people, they're just going to be inviting more business in, which I guess has got some benefit, but I think the one that would be the most motivated would be the real estate people, and they've got a little bit of, especially the bigger ones, have a little bit of money to give to them. A couple $1,000s to market a property is nothing. Whether it's CB Richard Ellis for that property, I know there's a couple of others that they represent around Long Grove, or any of the others, and they're pretty easy to get to, and they listen and they just make a decision quickly based on, is it worth me to plunk down a few $1,000s here to help fund something that mentions us and gets my name, you know, a real estate name out in front of the property. Actually, contact. That's where I would go. I mean, that's if you want looking for a quick something that's going to happen faster. That's where I would go.
If I could interject, this is Rita. The village of Long Grove has no right to pay CB Richard Ellis or anybody else to market somebody else's property. The owner of that property has control of that. I think one avenue that we could easily consider is you need to drive traffic to your website. Nobody's going to sit down at coffee or with friends and say, you know, geez, I should go on the Long Grove website tonight to see what's happening. You know, you need to drive it. And in my business, typically you drive traffic to your website through social media, through my contacts, my customers. They go to my website, and your website, Denise knows this, I'm sure. You need to have words in your website that are the SEO words, search engine optimization words, links, paragraphs, phrases that Google likes. That kind of thing. Google likes pictures. So if you give Google what Google wants, when people sit down at the keyboard, hopefully your website or the village website should pop up and therefore entice someone to open it. So, you know, that's the journey that one has to take in order to get people to get to their website.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Rita. I mean, maybe we focus in on two aspects of this being available sites, like we're talking about. Obviously, you know, TIF,
yes,
South 15, available sites. And the other one, you know, in terms of, you know, what we've got already is before and after developments. Those are two things that are kind of are grabbers in terms of people wanting to look at something.
Yes, and in many ways, why would Menards want to pay us to advertise so that they have more competition, or Sunset Foods? There has to be something in it for them. What's the benefit? What am I going to get out of it? And that doesn't make them bad people. To me, that's good business, you know. So I think that I think that the frustration is maybe the offering price, maybe, whatever. I just know for a fact that most developers know that zoning could be fungible, could be, and just because it says X doesn't mean we don't get people or haven't gotten developers in the past on different sites in the village who say, yeah, we know that's what the zoning is, but here's what we need. They're not shy. And I think now that the economy is looking a little better, people that have been asleep are awakening. I'm seeing that in a lot of different areas. So the time may be on our side at this point in time. The times we are in may be on our side now.
Okay, so I must admit I got a little distracted by a daughter in a state of crisis. But so am I hearing that we are not going to I kind of agree with you. Why I feel uncomfortable advertising. I like the idea of doing a drone footage of available properties, but I do wonder about Sunset and Menards or whatever paying for it, because I kind of have a hiccup on that. So am I hearing that right? So we're not going to go towards businesses to sponsor this? Did I miss something?
That's what I heard.
All you heard was my opinion.
And I'll agree with Reed on that, even though I brought up getting some sponsorships from some businesses, so.
Okay, so we're scrapping that, Erwin.
Right. So we don't have to talk, we can talk about other things then.
Okay.
Okay, but I want to go back to my point. Let's get a product done and figure out what the cost is. This has been on the list for a year, maybe a year and a half. And I'm a firm believer of let's get it to the finish line. To get it to the finish line, do we want to do it internally? Or do we want to get it externally? And the second part is then what we do with social media. There's two different issues here. So we should have a discussion on that. Do we want to do it internally or pay someone externally, whether it's $800, $1,000, $1,500, if we could get it approved?
Well, I think, so we have now two, How'd You Do It are ready to go pretty much. I have to tweak one of them, and the drone video is ready to be posted. So I think we have product. I think I did sit in on the Municode meeting about updating the webpage. So I'm hoping once Denise has a little bit of breathing room, or maybe I can work with Sherry or Margarita, who are also in that, we can get them into the page. I think the missing link is going to be that social media conversation we have. I think that would help drive this. But we do have some product to put up, and I think that was the right way to do it, kind of low cost to get it up, see what interest we feed. But yeah, we do need to move forward with what is on the horizon. And
and Jenny, to add to what you're saying there, I think, to back up a little bit with that before and after development, as well as available sites. If we don't necessarily need to have these businesses pay for it, but if they've got something that we could put up as a product, that maybe Municode could help us, if we get something from like Mar and we get something from Sunset and we get something from Menards, I still like, the incorporating, these are developments that have been successful in Long Grove. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to pay for it, but maybe we talk to them about, getting their permission to incorporate it into the website, get product from them, which they probably have, and, do it that way. Because I think, we kind of have to, I think, push it from two ends. This is what's available, take a look at what's been successful, because that really, that has a lot of impact.
We provided at Sunset both aerials and street shots from before and after. So they have
I that's what I was thinking about. Thank you very much, Dave. That's what I was trying to think about. We've got product, I think, that we can just help, provide to somebody like Municode, code, and maybe they would give us a better price if we've got product to give them to say, help us incorporate this into the EDC website. I think they did give us a bid of 8,000. If we've got product to give them, maybe they would lower it quite a bit. I hope they would.
Jenny, from the meeting that you went to, are we in a position where we could post these pictures and the video on our website or on our microsite for EDC right now, given the training that hopefully people are getting, or Denise?
You know, I think that, so one of the big concerns was being ADA compliant. And I was able to confirm that you can link to YouTube clips they can't run on the screen, but we can post the link up there, which should have a picture of it to draw people to that site. So we have the availability to do it. I mean, I sat in a 1.5 hour session, so I'm a little iffy on how to do it, but it's pretty straightforward. And we do have the talent in-house to make these adjustments. Denise, pop in.
Yeah, I was going to say, you actually can do more than just a link. You can actually have, like on our Robert Parker Coffin Bridge page, you can have the video right there and ready to go. We just have to actually link to, those have to be posted on YouTube. That is the only issue, is they have to be there first. You can't, some websites are capable of you can just post through the website, but we have to do it through YouTube. So that's, and what you're talking about, Roger, that's really easy. We can get those pages done without any additional, like we don't have to run that through Muticode. We can do that ourselves.
All right. We don't have to get things closed captioned or anything like that in order to post them?
That's what's nice about YouTube, is they actually already do that for you. And that's a part of the reason why Municode uses. They want it through YouTube, or there's a couple other things that you can use, but YouTube seemed to be the best because it's built in. So.
Okay.
So I do think there's some things we can do in-house pretty quickly to get these up. I need to connect with Denise maybe, and I know she's got a lot on her plate.
Jenny, this is actually a good week. I'm actually only have my capstone go. This is like spring break. And so I think we could probably get this done sooner than later,
Perfect.
So let's connect.
Perfect. Great.
Great. Good.
So we've got some idea now, I think, if I heard right, of what the cost would be to get a drone video of the developable areas, the two TIF areas.
Is that what we want to focus on, just those two areas, south?
That's my question. Do we want to go to the village? Because that's a kind of concrete thing that you could come to the village board with and say, we need maybe $1,200 to get raw material, drone video of the TIF areas. We think that's a good idea. Will you authorize that, or something like that? That's the kind of thing that they can react to without getting lost in a lot of sub issues. What about that as a way to go forward?
I think that's a good place to start. I think if we just focus on the two TIFs, it's a defined area.
All right. Anybody else have any thoughts about?
I think this is Ann. I think starting with those two makes the most sense. I think it's very defensible to say, hey, we want to focus on the 5 areas identified in the 2-year-long comprehensive plan process. And you named them earlier, the Long Grove Commons, the area up along 45 and 83, Sunset downtown, which are already the TIF, and then the Menards TIF, the South Gateway TIF.
I think too that particularly with the new TIF and the South 15, what's really nice from a drone perspective is that both of those properties are adjacent to large, high traffic stores that are thriving. So, the South 15 being so close to Sunset, all the traffic that comes in there, if you could be there like on a Saturday morning,
Good point. Yeah.
and the same for Menards, it's right next door. And you've got, just come in on the parking lot, go over Menards, hit the acreage over at Geimer. That's a great visual. I think anyway, I think it would be.
All right. It sounds like we're going to try that on the board tonight. Is that where we're at?
It's not an official agenda item. I had asked for it to be, and apparently it did not get on the agenda. But it's something I discussed with President Jacob, and I said, look, can we please get social media back on the agenda and get moving?
That's a longer story. So we probably need to talk as a board, but yeah, we'll talk about it.
Thanks, Bill.
Yep.
We can get that started. Anybody want to throw anything on the record, since it wasn't video recorded, about the visit to the reserve after the last meeting?
I think that it was lots of potential. I think it's going to do really well once they finish tearing everything down and start building back up. So I think there's a lot of hope for potential targets that the community can hit, or that can actually, move into this area once they finish. But again, until they have the specs up and an actual build out, people just can't visualize. That's why those, HGTV specials where they actually draw in what things will look like, like until you get those kind of specs up, I don't think it's worth, people just can't visualize. So I don't think it's gonna be beneficial, but for anyone that hasn't taken the tour, it is, there's a lot of potential in that space.
I also want to say, I think that the Jake Weiss and that whole crew seem pretty motivated and like good, responsible tenants. So I'm hoping that it's lucrative for Long Grove.
Well, to me, it's a really nice example of this group pairing up with the developer and telling them we're here to help you, and hopefully that kind of word gets out too in the development community that Long Grove is a good place to consider these kinds of developments, but all positive.
Well, and they're a really good group for us to have because they're energetic, they're innovative, they think outside the box. They to me, you pick up a vibe when you're talking to them. It's really refreshing to be over there.
Has anybody had any luck finding out more about the modifications to the Illinois sales tax, the ROT, this last mile business?
Yeah, let me give you an update. I ended up talking to Brad Cole yesterday, and I invited him or someone from the organization to speak to us, and he said, you're best off going to the Illinois Department of Revenue, not to anyone from his group. And he sent me a link. And Denise, I don't even think you have to download it right now, but maybe you could put it in there are two flow charts that were sent, which did not address that issue. So if you want, we can get someone from the Illinois Department of Revenue. But frankly, I think this is a function of someone at the village really interpreting this. We're not the experts on this. And if you see the flow chart, you probably need to go for a drink after that. Denise, I don't know if you looked at it or not.
I did. I was trying to grab it. I'll put it up.
Okay.
Is the new legislation in place, or is this still a point in time where we can try and find lobbying groups or call people ourselves and try to influence what happens with like distribution by zip code business? That seemed to me to be an area that
there's a lot of lobbying efforts already being done related to sales tax.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's already a lot of lobbying being done by multiple groups. So I get emails from all of them, but they are the ones that have been kind of pushing for some of the, sales tax aspects, either for or against. So yeah, it's very confusing, especially because after Wayfair happened, it just created a lot of confusion amongst all the states. So there are some coalitions like nationwide that are trying to market band together, and Texas is grappling with the same issue because they're similar to Illinois, but Texas is determining also whether or not to go destination based. So it really is, I mentioned in other calls that if we ever got an actual specific case, it's something usually that, you get a private letter ruling or a general information letter that we can get through, or the company can get through the Department of Revenue, and that will hold solid. So whatever they say is deemed specifically for that company, and you can use that when you're filing returns. But again, I don't think necessarily, we as a village could probably do that, but again, it costs money to obviously hire a tax professional to write these GILs and PLRs. I used to write them, when I was at Anderson and Deloitte and PwC, but obviously it's been years since I've done that. But yeah, we can do it if we as a village wanted to do that. But typically I used to do them for my clients, and the clients would get them that way. They would file them with their own tax returns.
On a bigger picture, what is the tax rate? I think that Sunset and Menards have an additional, what is the tax rate in Long Grove, independent of whether it's last mile or whether it's factual taxable? What is the sales tax rate in Long Grove? Is it 2%?
I don't believe there's an add-on for the village as a sales tax.
Yeah, we do. We have 2% or whatever it is, approximately.
Okay.
So,
and that 2% is throughout the whole village, or just at the Menards subsite and the Sunset Grove subsite? How is it? Where is that?
that's a good question, because we got the downtown that's part of it. Yeah, go ahead.
If you hold on, let me see if I can pull it up, because it was one of the demographic things that I wrote for our demographics portion of the economic development.
I think we created a special district surrounding Sunset Grove to add an additional.
I don't have it off the top of my head, but
we did. The effective sales tax rate is 8% across the full village and 9% in Sunset Grove. Sunset Grove has an additional business district tax that doesn't exist elsewhere.
Okay.
Village-wide, it's 1, and then additional on infrastructure.
Okay. So the net effective to the village is either a point or 2, or 1 or 2%, depending upon those locations. And how Menards is 1%?
Yes.
And the TIF South 15 correction, the TIF off of Lake Cook Road, as it stands right now, that general area is 1% to the village.
As it stands right now, there's no special tax in that. There's no business district created.
So that's a later development at some point when the use pattern is determined.
Yep, absolutely could be.
In downtown Long Grove is what? Did that tie into the same area as Sunset Grove?
The business district is just Sunset Grove. So downtown is same as village-wide.
Okay.
Yeah, Jay, pretty much everything is 8% except for the special, district that you're in, the Sunset Grove.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, but then you also have, it's different on medication and certain things too, right? So, but
yeah, there's different.
So carve outs for specific product sales.
Yeah.
But that's not at the village level.
Right.
So it seemed to me that this general principle of the document that's sitting here probably applies to the village, does it not? Subject to interpretation by professionals in regards to what happens with this last mile. It looks like to me, is there any reason to believe that it's not subject to the 1% sales tax? It's just quickly looking at this.
Dr. Levine, the thing is though, is that they're going to where it lands is where they're going to credit the taxes. So that's where it gets interesting, right? It's where it lands. That's the big change this year in Illinois.
Sure,
And
but what-
understanding how that impacts, the conversation we're having here. If it lands in Long Grove, we would get it. If it doesn't, we may not.
And
There's
that's
some-
where we were talking last week about right now, 60047, because they do it based on zip codes. Right now, most of that goes to Lake Zurich. And very few of it, I think probably, I mean, until we can figure it out. Like I said, I still get emails or letters or whatever that still say Lake Zurich 60047. Even though so I think that's where we were talking last week, or the last time we had a call that, until we can clarify that, making sure that Long Grove gets its proportionate share. But the destination sales is kind of where, Illinois is. And it's going to be, so if the Amazon package lands in your mailbox, it used to, again, be where the order was placed and accepted, but now with the destination sales, that's where it's going to be, where the ultimate destination is.
So when you look at sales tax districts between Long Grove and the surrounding zip code that's shared, how is that divided? I mean, how will that be laid out? I mean, Long Grove has certain municipal areas, correct? Some of the zip code to the west is, if it's delivered at that area, is that automatically the outside of Long Grove, even though it is within the jurisdiction of Long Grove? I mean, Long Grove has borders by definition, correct statement? The incorporated portions of Long Grove.
Right.
I think I don't know. I haven't looked at the convoluted diagram that everyone is discussing, but if they can get to the zip +4, that will help. We can identify where Long Grove is more. There's something that I had read also, and I'd be curious about. It's not just where it lands, but also where it's shipped from. So if it's shipped from an Amazon warehouse in Illinois, it may be handled differently than if it's shipped from an Amazon warehouse in Wisconsin and got delivered to Long Grove.
Okay. So there's a complex, the multifactorial complex formula here.
Indeed.
Yeah, but you got to think though that we're not the only one that has a post office that shares multiple cities or towns. So other places in the state have to have the same thing. So hopefully this is sorted. I know we're skeptical because of we get a lot of stuff with Lake Zurich, as the city that's addressed to it, when we get the mail. But you got to think that it's sorted, and we just have to look into it.
So the incorporated borders of Long Grove are defined on a map by location, geographics, right?
Matter of fact, we're approving it tonight again. We have to do it every year, but yeah, tonight we're reapproving our map, our zoning map.
So does
Got the borders on it.
does that include the areas out a little bit further west and a little bit further north, for instance, as long as that's incorporated Long Grove, true? It's not just
Whatever's incorporated in Long Grove, yes, but not unincorporated.
So the South 15, the TIF off of Lake Hook Road, that's incorporated now into Long Grove, correct?
Yeah, it always was, yeah.
Right, okay.
But clearly this is one we need more information on, and it's relatively new. It was based on population. Whatever the state gets, they distribute it based on population. Now it's going to be, they're going to try to figure out where it lands, right? And that's what you're going to get. So, and I don't even know if anyone that's, out of the area that's collecting the tax, that they even know how to figure it out. I mean, I'm hearing that is a nightmare for anyone that owns the business.
But on a bigger picture, obviously, I'm not an accountant, but on a bigger picture, it seemed like this is favorable for, if they know where it's landing, and ultimately where the incorporated boundaries of Long Grove are, at some point there'll be strict determinations of where this is going to go. Better than just
should be a benefit to us. It should be, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're thinking. Yeah.
So we should still maybe keep an eye out for possibilities of last mile distribution centers. If the place where it lands is
and that's what every town which is putting warehousing in right now is.
Yeah.
Mina, are you catching that too in Illinois? I don't know if most of your work's Illinois or outside of Illinois, but at least Illinois, I think that's exactly what these towns are looking at right now.
Yeah, right now I'm working a project in Texas, and like I said, the legislature is really freaked out because destination sales would really impact a lot of the communities there, and one of the communities I'm working with. So it'll help the really large, like the Austins and the Dallas propers, or, you know, the Friscos, but any of the ones that are much smaller, you know, it really might hurt them because of the destination sales and how it's going to impact what they're. So towns currently are looking at how much they're currently bringing in from a revenue perspective and how much they're going to be losing, which is in the millions, tens of millions for some communities.
Cool. And are you seeing that the local can the local municipalities that are involved put in place new laws which will in fact affect the way that revenue flows to them?
No, it's
No.
statewide. If the legislature has their way, or rather, you know, if they decide that, you know, they're going to go destination sales and everything up until this point, which has created a lot of revenue sharing, sales tax revenue sharing projects in the state. That is all, now it just goes to every city where the person that's buying, let's say, a Dell computer, the taxes will go to where it's being delivered. And again, there's the exceptions, as Ann mentioned earlier, about, you know, if there's a warehouse, et cetera. But, you know, if it's shipped from out of state, then what happens? I mean, there's just, but no individual city can combat that. I mean, it will be the law if that goes that way. But, you know, my sources say that it's leaning against doing destination sales. There's enough lobbying, I think, efforts to prevent that from happening, but who knows? I mean, you never know what's going to happen.
Did that time frame work in for the next 5 years? Or I mean, when's there going to be strict regulations on this?
Oh, you mean just nationwide or
Yeah,
by state?
let's talk about Illinois. Let's talk about Illinois and more importantly, Long Grove.
So no, so in Illinois, I mean, this is the law now. I mean, this flow chart that you're seeing on Denise's screen.
Yeah, leveling the playing field retailer flow chart. Is that the?
Yeah, that's it. Like, so it's effective as of this year, and a lot of companies are going to be, you know, figuring out. You know, it's going to be easier for, you know, I mean, actually, I take it back. For all the large companies, the Fortune 300s, like I've got clients that are Fortune 300s, they can flip a switch and get this done. Not even a problem. It's some of the smaller companies that are going to be finding a heck of a, you know, having a headache trying to just figure out this flow chart. But once they do, I mean, it's just a, you know, an easier process once they actually figure it out.
So if you order from HomeDepot.com and they deliver to your house in Long Grove, where's the sales tax going to be collected?
Depends on where their Home Depot, you know, where the distribution center, I believe, is located, if I'm not mistaken.
And whether Home Depot online sold it or Home Depot in Arlington Heights sold it.
Well, certainly, we know if you walk into the store where it's going. That's not an issue. Is that correct? That's not changing. If you walk into the Home Depot in Vernon Hills, they're getting the sales tax, true?
Vernon Hills gets the sales tax.
So therefore, which I had heard in the community, in the real estate community, some of the placement of where these actual last mile delivery warehouses are, if they're sitting within the corporate limits, let's say in this particular case, since we're all looking out for Long Grove, if it's sitting in Long Grove, that warehouse, even if it's ultimately delivered to Kildare, may be the determinant of where their sales tax flows. Am I incorrect, Amina? I mean, I mean, in a general concept, but specifics are going to be worked out in the next year, let's say. There's no question this is a hot button area right now. Is that true?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think there's enough people that were anti kind of destination. So yeah, this is definitely a hot button. So yeah, it's definitely gonna, I mean, some businesses or some communities are definitely going to make out like a bandit with this, and others are gonna lose so much revenue. It's gonna be interesting to see.
And that's going to be by a clearly defined set of rules, or it's going to be an interpretive body. I mean, at some point,
how do we
get ahead in trying to track? How do we?
No. Yeah. And I think that's legit. I mean, like, if you use this flow chart, I mean, there's enough questions in this flow chart, because what if a company had a very specific set of, you know, circumstances? That's when you do the general information letter or private letter rulings, because those then are that, you know, let's say you say, well, what if I did this and I sold through here and I did this and my distribution center is here and it's shipped from there. And then who gets the tax or whatever? And then if the DOR sends, hey, the tax goes to, you know, city A, then you have, for your future, like if you ever get audited, you could say, look, I got a private letter ruling that says that I'm doing the right thing because this is exactly what they told me to do. One of those things, I mean, private letter rulings are binding to that one company. So you'll see PLR rulings all across the DOR website, but they're only binding to that specific company. And if you want it binding to your own, then you personally, as your own company, has to submit a letter for a PLR to the Department of Revenue. But a lot of companies won't go a private letter ruling. I mean, that's just, possibly suicide that way, because until you know exactly what you're going to get, you don't want it binding to you in case it goes against what you want. That's
Sure.
why people do the general information letters first, because those are more like, well, what if? And
Gary, in your business, there's some transferable information. In your business, someone comes into your showroom and they buy a car, but they live in a different town from where you are. Who gets the sales tax?
Read the chart. Yeah, I mean, I'm just reading the chart, and it's really not all that terrible to understand. The way that I get the chart, the question is, all right, if the car is located on your lot in Illinois and somebody comes into your lot in Illinois to buy it, it's the sales rate of the town where your lot is, period. But if you're selling cars through the internet, then there are a whole different set of rules that take place and say, well, you have to look at where the car is being delivered. Are they coming to your place to pick it up, or are you sending it out, as I guess Carfax does on trucks, to places to deliver? And it could change the whole thing about buying a car in Cook County versus Lake County, and that's something that a lot of people do pay attention to. So this is not some little.
So it's the Wild West. All we got to figure out at Long Grove is how do you at least try to figure out how to benefit in the best way, if there is a way.
Yeah.
If we can get a car dealership in Long Grove, that would be great, because we get some huge sales tax benefits then. Gary, if you wanted to move the location here.
I can't move again. Once every 20 or 30 years is about the most I can stand. Yeah, you pay, but you're going to get that classic car dealer if you can swing that one. He can sell 20 or 30 or more cars every month. Then again, he'll be shipping a lot of them out of state too. So you have to get back to this chart as to whether it's, I know that the person buys a car at our store, they pay the sales tax of the county where they live.
Where's title too? They use a title.
That's why they try and.
They use the title. Is that what?
The title too which is where they live. Right.
Gotcha.
That's why some people try and get around the Chicago ruling by using their parents' address and leasing a car. They try and use their parents' address in Lake County or outside of the city of Chicago, because that's where the tax would be collected, payable.
Yeah, some people will even use their vacation homes outside of the state. Because it's lower tax rates.
Mm-hmm.
Denise, can you take the screen down, the chart? Thank you. There's too much information. All right. The one page piece to go on our website about the TIF.
That's me. Sorry, I've just gotten really busy. Jenny and I talked about it, and I was going to put together a TIF bulletin. So I should hopefully have it for the next one. But we did talk about it, and we're going to use, as we talked about last time, things that are straight from the statute and just kind of list examples of what might or what is eligible per statute, and try to make sure it's a little bit more general information, not very specific, tying us to anything. But again, we'll send it for the EDC to review, but it is, since we can't commit to anything specifically, I think if we just gave them a primer kind of what are eligible costs per the statute, I think we won't get in trouble.
Sounds good. That's what we got the agenda to keep following up on this stuff. So thank you. We've already kind of nibbled around this next item, discussion of how the Lakemore development site looks. And I've talked to people and I've had different reactions. General thoughts for those who've had a chance to look at it?
You know, I just pulled up the Lakemore site, and I think it's a great example of something we could do. You know, I don't know, again, if we would need Unico to help us, but you open it up on the development page, and it's got 4 arrows pointing to Woodman's Development, US Route 12, Midtown Opportunity, and Downtown Development. You know, it's got the shots of the drone, the drone sites, and you know it's got big bold arrows pointing to those, and you can click on them and you find out the specifics of all those sites. So I see, Gary, why you pointed us to that. I mean, that's just like as good as you can get.
Yeah, and that's why when I was looking for another location and I was looking at Fox Lake, and it was pointed out to me, look at Lakemore just, 3 miles to the south. I went on to the Lakemore website and it was, wow, everything is laid out right there like a real estate agent would be making a great presentation to a prospect. It was a selling experience. It wasn't just an informational, it was informational, and it was really good. And they have the statistics. I mean, in our website, the Village of Long Grove has some of that, but they just, put a polish to it. And they were very responsive when I called them. They got right back to me. They sent me different additional information that, and they are also, Richard Ellis again is on the property just to the south of Woodlands. They have that stretch of property on the south, and they may have others in the area. And so they sent to me, the real estate agency then responded by calling and then sending information to me. So it was a follow-up. It was Lakemore and the real estate people who would benefit from the sale were in sync. And that's why I said earlier that if you can get CB Richard Ellis or whomever, Rita, if your agency has got property in Long Grove or any of the others, which I don't know the names of, they'd be willing to, I would say they'd be willing to have some budget to help promote it and help you get to that level. And all I might have to do is on there, I think it says CBRE. Don't they have a label that says, the CBRE logo on those properties, if I remember correctly? Because people want to know where to go to find out about the information. They make it very easy to take that next step. And the next step is you have to get in touch with the real estate agent to promote it. And then they go into the selling mode. So you don't get away if you get on that Lakemore website and you're thinking about moving there. They're going to do their very best to entice you to go move there.
If you Google Long Grove Economic Development, which I just did, and you click on what comes up, and then contrast that to the page that Lakemore has, the contrast is pretty big. Long Grove is straightforward. It's got something that says, yeah, we've got this or that, but it's in both cases, it's embedded. At least the 2 screens I got, one, it was at the bottom of a page that just talked about the village generically. And with the other one, it was a list of us, the members of the EDC, along with some tabs on the side that you might go to. And
Lakemore has a full-time, I guess they share with Park City, economic development guy who's very good.
Right. But that doesn't say that we couldn't work with whoever and get ourselves a micro page that says in a much bolder way, economic development here. We have this and these things are going on.
I think that's what's going to get the results, is that you have to be able to reel in some prospects, and that doesn't happen by just soft information, which is really good. And the website's not, Village of Long Grove website is not terrible. The one that gets the job done is the Lakemore. That's what I would say you have to do.
Well, we've been talking about, working with the people from Municode, and that's going to go forward. But I think that as a goal for the group here to try to revise our economic development website, hopefully improve it, would be a reasonable goal to keep on our radar for the near future.
Roger, this is and Jenny chime in, but we're trying to add some budget for additional technology to do that. One of the things that would be super helpful would be for this group to identify, I don't know, 3 to 7, you know, a handful that's manageable of what are the key elements that the microsite should have versus just saying Lake Moore, you know, but like what would serve Long Grove the best? Is that a reasonable ask?
I certainly think so. Maybe we should assign ourselves some homework. Let's say that we should all try and make it a point to go to a half dozen websites sometime in the next couple of weeks and take some notes and share those notes on what you saw that you thought was really worthwhile. You know, the Lake Moore style that had them target specific development areas as bold tabs, I think that was a good feature. And on
And
the other hand,
the other thing they have, Roger, is right in that same page, they have the Lake Moore market area. They've got the 5-minute, 10-minute, and 20-minute radius highlighted on a map right there on that first page.
and we have that on our website. I'm pretty sure, don't we, Denise? Rena?
You know what, we have it on our demographics, but we don't, but again, we haven't published that one yet.
Okay.
Because we're waiting to see, because again, we're trying to make updates to the website in general, so that way we can make them all together. And the team had a call last week with the website people. I believe the village staff and Denise and Ann and Jenny were available. So I haven't caught up with them since, but I do believe that, you know, there was, you know, they got a primer on what things that they may or may not be able to change.
I think something that might be helpful too, just as far as, because you can look at a bunch of different websites and see sort of more the details that you want to add, like things like those key ideas that Anne was talking about. But it might be helpful if I sent out, say, 10 links to actual Municode sites to their economic development areas, because each website platform is going to have a different flavor of kind of the aesthetics. And so, you know, you can kind of sometimes get caught up in like, I like the look of this, but it might not be something that we're able to do. So it'd be nice to sort of see both, like what are those key elements, and also what is the capability of the look. So I could, you know, get from Municode, maybe try to get like 10 sites that we could look through.
That's a good idea, Denise. If we could mention to them, you know, something like Lake Moore, or something with demographics that are close to Long Grove, you know, maybe sites that are, you know, in the Lake County area, you know, give them some parameters of something that might easily fit ourselves into, you know, and, you know, kind of cover the types of things that we're looking to do. That would be helpful.
In the past week, I looked at Lincolnshire and I looked at Lake Forest. They were instructive to me. I'm thinking, how about we'll create a list. I'll work with Denise and we'll create a list of 10 or a dozen suburbs and give you the websites. And then everybody has to rank them for themselves, so that by the next meeting, we're going to have our statistics, what we think was good, what we think was bad. I can put that together and we can show, you know, what the ranking ended up being, but also we can then talk about what it was that we saw on those websites that we thought was positive and what we thought was kind of a waste of their budget. Or does that sound like a reasonable way to approach this?
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then we could put together those 3 to 5 elements that we want for the microsite. And, you know, we can then get a bid on that and present it to the board.
Is that everybody on board, more or less? All right, I'll work with Denise and we'll get this out hopefully soon, and see where it goes. That's good. The last item on the agenda is talking again about the Our Towns book. I'll save my reaction. Anybody have any reactions about St. Mary's, Georgia?
Well, I thought in some respects they were, you know, obviously, as any town, it has some elements that don't really jive with our demographics. It looked like they had one major employer. It went from that Gilmore paper to the Navy, you know, thanks to their Governor Carter. And, you know, they're a coastal town, but I think what we could derive from it is that, you know, they did have a vital downtown that they were trying to develop around their own particular, their own organic development, which is something obviously that we're trying to do. They had a very vital high school, you know, which actually played into a lot of what they were doing in terms of promoting the town. In their case, I think it was football and some other things, but they also had, you know, very good academic scores. So, I mean, there were parts of what you could see from what they did that we could look to. Obviously, we don't have some of the, you know, the underlying engines that kind of drove the economics of that town, you know, being the Navy, obviously, and being a coastal town. But, you know, you can always get some lessons, like how they, you know, they're working on their downtown, they're working on being a destination, and how the interplay with their school district.
I thought it was really good from a that, you know, the southern states typically have these technical community colleges where they do a lot more of the apprenticeship programs and try to get the high school students and college students to gear more towards industrial or manufacturing related activities. And I think it was great that the town turned around doing that. And Georgia's been one of the premier states. They started one of the best training programs of any state. And then it was soon after copied by Louisiana and Virginia. But Georgia has this thing where if a company comes, like they'll train an entire workforce for free. They'll even build out, again, depending on how large the project is, they'll even build out a fake facility for your brand new employees to train in, and then before you even come up to opening day. But again, Georgia's always been very good about something like that. But I thought that, you know, the story that they talked about, just the community college and how impressed they were when they went back to visit, of how the you know, how they were in all of these various different categories of, you know, career technical, like law and justice or engineering, and it really turned their town around. But I really think it was a result because of the military. It really is. So they traded one large company presence with another large company presence, which just happened to be government. But it was a great story. I thought it was a good, a nice little slice of what one town did to turn itself around.
Yeah, you know, it clearly isn't a Long Grove kind of a community. It's much more of a broader based demographic in terms of social class and whatnot. But like with all these, there are little clues. My thought was, it made me realize how important Stevenson High School is to the area, in the sense of being a driver of value for property, period, around here.
Right.
You know, you still get the people who advertise the new homes that are going up on 22 and in Hawthorne, you know, Stevenson High School district. You know, we should keep in mind that's one of the positives that we have. But beyond that, it was new business. Anybody?
Question for you guys who read it. If you were driving past it next week, would you take the 20 minutes off of 95 to go have lunch there?
And I didn't understand the question, Amy. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, for anyone who read it, and if you were driving past it next week, would you head the 20 minutes off of 95 to go have lunch there? Is that where I should have lunch next week?
For sure, I would.
Awesome. I love cute downtowns. So when I saw it was right off my path, I'm like, ooh, maybe I want to go. Thank you.
I think it would be interesting just to see basically a military town. Do you know what I mean? I think it is very diverse. I mean, just from a socioeconomic and just in general, it's a very diverse community from what I've read, and especially where it is in Georgia too. Georgia is just, I mean, it's talk about its socioeconomic highs and lows, but where this is, it's going to be cute, but it's also going to be very different.
Oh, I find that interesting too. That's local color to me. Cool. I think that's where I'll have lunch next week. Thanks.
Sounds good. All right. How about a motion to adjourn? Anybody? Somebody?
So moved.
Second? All right. We are adjourned. Thank you all for your time. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Have a good
Thanks,
day.
Roger.
Thank
Thanks,
you. Have a
everyone.
good day.
Well,